Yep, hi everyone, I'm Brendan, I'm CTO at WeBuild-AI.
Hi, I'm Diogo, founding AI engineer at WeBuild-AI.
And tonight we're going to talk to you just about some of the lessons learned from last year about our work building agentic systems and what we expect in 2025. We're an AI consultancy, so we work across strategy to execution, but we're also building a lot of internal tooling that we use within our engagements with our clients. And we're going to show some of what we've been working on over the past 3 weeks tonight.
So first going over what we will be showing you guys today. We'll be focusing on AI agents, a buzzword these days. But first, let's start by describing what an agent is. Is not much more than an encapsulated combination of components like a model, tools, memory, a goal. And we used a lot of AI agents to building and deploying agent solutions for enterprise organizations through our platform pathway. And today we will give you an overview on our declarative config solution for LangGraph and AutoGen, two frameworks that we selected to work with agents. Then we will pass on to a demo on each of the providers. We will give you a sneak peek on the internals of our solution. And finally, we will talk about why we've been developing these and what's our view on 2025.
Thanks, Diogo. So me and Diogo came back from Christmas in January. In the past 3 weeks, we decided to follow the ready, aim, fire, ready, fire, aim approach. So we've been promising that we've been looking at various different agentic frameworks. We wanted to find an easier way for us to be able to experiment. This is something we've worked for 3 weeks. We haven't had time to name it so far, but effectively, if you think about what it actually does, is rather similar to Terraform. So it allows you to describe for a declarative config various different agentic workflows. So models, agents, workloads, teams, all those types of conditions. It's underpinned by a JSON schema. So it does our configuration, validation, and it just expressed as YAML.
Thank you. So as Brendan mentioned, all starts with a YAML file where you give your declarative model configuration, and then that goes on through a core configuration that accommodates both providers. Each of them will then have its specific parameters based on workflow type, such things like different types of agents, different configurations for the agents, specification of teams, and in the end, the specification of the workflow, like the initial task, if we want to define and use human in the loop. After the execution of this workflow, we will produce and run a cleanup to make sure everything is secure and good to go. So we will now, as I mentioned, go on to demos on both providers. For LangGraph, we have a workflow talking about the process of creating, researching and creating a blog post on AI trends and its impact on employment, and that will then produce a document in the end.
Thanks, Diogo. And the AutoGen example, the reasons why we picked 2 different frameworks is they operate in 2 different ways. So where LangGraph is a lot more sort of procedural based, AutoGen lends itself really well to sort of discussion and a debate type environment. So the AutoGen example will be following that particular use case.
Thank you. Before actually looking into the demo, I'll give you an overview on why LangGraph and the differentiation points against other providers. First is an AI-driven collaboration where multi-agent solutions work collaboratively on a structured workflow where each agent has its own role. This solution provides a granular control on a graph view where each node of the graph is an agent. Each edge corresponds to interactions between the agents, and you also have the opportunity to attach tools to each agent or make conditional edges as well. It's good to explain that these tools are external actions that you attach to your agent that make you call some actions like do a web search or write a document, read documents, RAG, or even code execution. These workflows are highly customizable. You can define precisely the control task, the delegation, and dependencies between models and supervisors. And in this demo, we will show a real-world orchestration workflow where the goal is to automate the research, then do some fact-checking on that research, moving on to writing the blog post, going through some iterations of reviewing and writing with feedback, and finally provide a document on the workflow. So the high-level workflow is a supervisor that controls all the workflow and communicates with the three teams: the research team, content team, and document team. Oh, can we stop it?
Yeah.
No. Oh. Well, so this is the workflow that is going. You can see that started by research. You can see that the research went over the web and brought some insights, then passed on to the fact checker, again to the research. And we go over this for a few iterations of querying the web and bringing facts to the fact checker. Finally, it finishes, passes to the author that, using the statistics, write the first version, then passed on to the reviewer, provide some suggestions, and we iterate over again in this part. Finally, it creates a document with the final version of the blog post, and it saves the document, and you can see here then the document with the final version of the document, the blog post, using the research and the feedback provided by the reviewer.
Awesome, thanks Diogo. So yeah, this is going to be a live demo, so it's probably at this point I find out that Ben hasn't topped up our OpenAI account, but let's see. So this particular use case, I think we are solving all of society's biggest challenges and problems. So this particular example is a workflow that determines what's the biggest club between Manchester United and Liverpool. The actors and the agents that are involved is humans in the loop. We're going to have a Manchester United fan, a Liverpool fan on the other side, putting their case forward about who's the biggest club against a certain set of criteria. And then we have a football expert review the content that's produced by those particular fans. So the high-level workflow is using the human will initialize the task. And then what we're using within AutoGen is a selector group chat type. So what this does is allows the LLM to decide the order of which agent speaks next. So it allows the intelligence inside that to manage the order. Each agent then is allowed to speak when they're asked, and then the human will decide at the end once the task is complete. So I'm going to break out of this and make sure that this actually, see if this works. So, bear for a moment. This, where's my... Yeah, there we go. Unfortunately, so we've been working for 3 weeks on this. We thought we'd have the API and the UI built by today, but it's not quite ready for showtime. But what we've got is a CLI access into the solution. And so what I will do is I'll just kick this off. So it's just it's written in Python. It's got a little CLI that effectively executes and reads in from a given workflow. So I'll kick that off while we wait. Oh.
You want to hold it?
Yeah, please, mate. Thanks. That's good. That's going to help, actually. Okay, so this is kicking off. So it's got the system prompts, the initial message that goes into the system. So it's asking who's the biggest football club between Manchester United and Liverpool. Let me just drag my GitHub over. So for a moment. And okay, so just to explain what this is doing. Yeah, so I can tell it now, Diogo. So this is, as I said, this is just a YAML representation of what that JSON schema is. So the key aspects of the config file is around the workflow type. So we're setting either AutoGen or LangGraph. We can set a model client. So this client can then be set across the whole of the workflow, or you can actually set specific parameters of the model on particular agents. This is useful if you've got an agent that you want to be more creative, or if you want something to be more accurate, you can lower the temperature. But you can also set different models based on different agent capabilities. We then set what the agents are. So we've got the human proxy, which is the human in the loop. We've set out who our Manchester United fan is. This is just an assistant agent type. We've got our system messages and the various different model clients, parameters that we can set and override from the model client that's set at the top of the workflow. The important parts is determining what the workflow structure is. So you can then set out what the team should be called, various different participants within that team. You can set things like the group chat type. So the abstractions that we've provided so far from AutoGen is the selected group chat and the round robin group chat. But there's also Swarm that's available now in AutoGen 0.4, which was released a couple of weeks ago. Other key aspects to this is around...
Zoom in.
Yeah. Is that better? Yeah. Sorry about it. Yeah, it's not too clear. Again, what we're doing is then setting the selector prompt. So this gives the LLM the ability to look at the types of messages that are flowing, and then that can determine which agent goes to speak next, rather than having a pre-configured flow through the system. Other key aspects to this is around the conditions, around how you terminate this. So we've set this as a text mention, and you can set effectively what that string should be that effectively then exits the workflow. We set our initial task. We can also set user interactions, so you can set out what the prompts are that the humans in the loop get fed back to. We've then got some controls around sort of timeouts and error handling. So if we go back to... So bear with me for a moment. Yeah, so if we go back now, so we kicked off the workflow. As you can see that the LLM has decided that the Manchester United fans should go first. So the way that we structured the prompts is that each fan should provide their opinions on financial health, the success on the pitch, and the fan passion. So the only thing that this isn't very good at is being very opinionated, like you do when you have conversations down the pub. So the LLM is quite nice in terms of what it presents, in terms of its positioning. As we go through this again, the LLM then decides that Liverpool fans should put their position forward. We scroll through this, again using the same criteria. And then the LLM has asked the football expert to provide their opinion on who's the biggest club. We've instructed the expert to review against the criteria that they put their debates through, and then give some score out of 10 to effectively then decide who is the bigger club. So final recommendations are both clubs score highly in all three criteria. However, considering the recent success on the pitch and the growth in financial health, Liverpool FC are the bigger club. Are we right? Computers. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, just hold that a second though. So I've now got the option. So I've now prompted as a user. So what I can type is to say football. Oh, sorry, can I see here? Football experts, please provide. Oh, if I can type. Provide a summary table of the scores. And if I send that in, then the LLM will be able to read in, because I'm effectively the next person in the chat. So what it has done, it's now returned back, it's answered, it's determined that I should be the next speaker, it's returned that table. And if I agree, so if I, sorry Diogo, a bit for a moment. If I type agree, and that's the text termination, then that ends the workflow. Here end of the demo. So bear with me for a moment, let me just get back to where we were. Okay. Percent review. Okay. So I know, Tony, we're a bit struggling for time, but yeah, I'll speed up now. Let's get back here. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to pass on to Diogo.
Yep, thank you. So now I'm going to talk a bit about the internals of the solution. This solution is for both providers, AutoGen and LangGraph. As Brendan mentioned, it all starts with the YAML configuration file that then goes through the CLI entry point and then goes over a validation process first of a core workflow, like if it has the main fields, then specifying the different workflow type goes over the validation for specific workflow type in terms of the specific model configuration, system prompt, keywords for human in the loop. Passing on all these configuration, we move on to the factory where we instantiate the specific runtime. And then when we go through the runtime, we start over by creating some model configuration manager where we specify and define the config vars. Then we create the agents specified in the workflow and specific system prompts for each agent, tools to assign to the agent. Then specifying the chat type and specifications of the chat, like the selection of the next speaker. Finally, handling the human in the loop inputs. And finally, as I mentioned before, after all the execution, we do run a cleanup to make sure all the memory and all the specifications are done.
Thanks, Diogo. So the reasons why we've chosen two different frameworks to support is that if you look at various different use cases, you've got big end-to-end processes. So we're working with an insurance company at the moment and looking at the claims management. That's a big end-to-end process, and you typically break that up into sub-processes. So it's just really determining what's the best sort of framework to address each stage in those sub-processes. And what this allows us to do is to rapidly experiment and just test out different models, different configurations, different chat topologies. It allows us to just go faster. The overall sort of view of this is, again, looking into some of the tools that are available to those agents, the different agent classes, how you piece those together, and how you use tools to solve specific problems. So why are we building this? So at scale, what we learned last year is, again, it's a classic problem where business users don't want to have a dependency on technology functions. They want to effectively be given platforms as much as possible. It reduces time to market, and increases that speed of change. Doing this as an exercise has really helped myself and Diogo. When you take the provider view, when we're working on specific use cases, you go deep in one particular area of that framework. But creating a provider has allowed us to get that breadth. So it really does it's helped our knowledge to see what's possible and what sort of more complex issues we can solve. This is a rapidly changing world. We've seen DeepSeek come yesterday. How sustainable are some of these providers? Different models come along. So you can use a lot of these tools if you're all in AWS, and you can go down the sort of bedrock route. What this is allowing us to do is be a little bit more flexible so we can adopt technologies and move as the time changes before we get locked into a specific approach. And as I mentioned, sort of one size doesn't fit all, and there's a benefit about looking at different use cases and applying different technologies and frameworks and workflows to solve those issues. So our plans this year, so yeah, unfortunately we didn't quite finish the API before this talk, but that's going to be hopefully released the end of this week. So that will allow an async viewing, so you can do system integration into this, so you can kick off your workflows, then query various different statuses of that via sort of an async API. We're then going to develop a UI on top of it. So what we want to do then is enable business users to be able to sort of configure those workflows, and then you can effectively create different user experiences. You might have an admin view or sort of some regarding, depending on what your role is in the business. This is all very well for starting off in building AI agents, but we worked on a use case last year, taking the meta agent approach, where it's leveraging automated design of agentic systems. This is where it gets super interesting, because it doesn't necessarily need the domain expertise in the agent workflow that you're trying to create. Effectively, the meta agent spawns its own expertise, and you can have self-learning systems that then optimize the agents that it's spawning. So this starts becoming a really nice pattern when you're solving complex problems. We did this in the legal contract review space. It was really interesting. So hopefully we'll get onto that very soon. If people are interested in this, we're a very open sort of consultancy. We're not a traditional consultancy. If people want to see this, if they want to contribute to it, as I said, we use the provider model to allow people to make it extensible. So if people are interested in it being open source, more than happy to do that.
Yeah, and finally, if you like what you heard here and you wanted to know a bit more about it or discuss, and if you don't grab us tonight, you can scan the QR code and request early access for the next ebook we are launching on the how to scale AI agents, where we will provide a practical guide on what exactly AI agents are and how can you approach the implementation of single and multi agents. To give you a reference, this will be our third ebook. Our last ebook was more than 60 pages, so it was a very good practical guide, very extensive. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks everyone.